Hey friends, I hope your day is off to a great start. As I mentioned yesterday in my post, I had the blessed opportunity to meet with two amazing African American women who are launching a ministry. And part of what I do at Deepwardly is I sometimes meet with people who are entering into what we call an encore career and who just want some opportunities to talk about it, to discern it, to look at it from some different angles. And so I was happy to meet with these two ladies. But in the course of our hour and a half long conversation, they took the time to share with me some of their experiences of racism and prejudice. And I want to share with you just one of those stories because it really touched my heart. I'm going to change their names just for the sake of anonymity. Um, the one woman, Janice, was sharing with me the story of her and her sister Peggy going to the grocery store. Now, she explained that Peggy is extremely fair-skinned and looks Caucasian, whereas Janice is very dark-skinned. It's very clear that she's African American. And then Janice's 10-year-old daughter was with her. So they both went, her and her sister, and they grocery shopped, and they were in line together at the checkout lane. Her sister Peggy was in front of her, and Peggy checked out, wrote a check for her groceries, and didn't have any problems. Pushed her cart a little ways past so that her sister Janice could check out. And Janice, the clerk, ran up her groceries. And then Janice went to pay with a check. And the clerk asked for two forms of ID. She hadn't done it for Peggy, who looks Caucasian, but she had done it for Janice, who looks African American. Her 10-year-old daughter picked up on this and was actually getting emotional, had tears coming to her eyes because she could see what was going on, and it hurt her heart. Janice was not going to make a big deal about it, didn't say anything, just produced the two forms of ID. Then the clerk got out a 3-ring binder of people who have tried to cash bad checks. And with Janice's driver's license still in hand, slowly began to flip through the pages to just check, to just make sure that Janice wasn't one of those people who had tried to cash a bad check. Now at this point, her 10-year-old daughter is just heartbroken. Can you imagine? Janice is feeling super embarrassed. Janice's sister finally realizes she's going to step in and say something, and the elderly white woman behind them in the checkout lane could see what was going on and was getting furious. So both the elderly white woman and Janice's sister confront the clerk. Before long, the manager is called over, and Janice explained that the clerk's excuse was that Peggy shops there all the time, whereas Janice, she didn't recognize. Well, the reverse is true. Actually, Janice's sister had never shopped there before, and Janice had shopped there countless times before. Janice explained that she used it as a teaching moment for both the clerk and the manager, and explained what had happened, let it be an opportunity for them to recognize maybe some prejudice and racism that they were holding on to that they didn't recognize. But it was clearly heartbreaking for Janice and also for her daughter to have experienced that. And it was just yet another reminder that that darker skin, that darker complexion changes things. It was another example of the simple experience of white privilege. Had Janice's sister not been related to her, she would have just paid with a check, taken her groceries, and walked out not having realized what white privilege meant for her. It meant that she didn't have to produce forms of ID. It meant that she didn't have to be humiliated while she was researched in a binder of fraudulent check cashers. It meant that she got out of the store quicker. It was just a really touching story that Janice shared with me, and was a reminder that racism and prejudice happens every day, sometimes in some pretty small, sometimes in some pretty big, ways that impact us, and that white privilege can be experienced sometimes in some very small, subtle ways, as well as some big ways. I'd love to hear the stories that you're hearing as you spend time with your African American family members, friends, co-workers, and you listen to their stories of prejudice and racism. What are you hearing? What are you learning? What's it doing to your heart? I hope you have an awesome day.